to what have we just read with Mike, Nadia, and with the jingle. And Nadia's just pointed out that we're very colour coordinated because we have a white and blue chapel, and I'm wearing blue and Nadia's wearing white. So it's
again, it's not planned.
Perfect, exactly. It's all exactly. It's kind of All Saints' Day.
Yeah.
So obviously we've all come in a very saintly mood today. So what have we read today?
Yeah, so we have first of all special readings, different from what it was yesterday and different from tomorrow because of the All Saints' Day. And the first is from the book of Isaiah. And I was just looking up on this Bible Gateway resource, which lists all the books of the Bible, what it's called, because it has those really helpful subheadings. And this whole chapter is called The Return of the Redeemed to Zion.
Ah,
So that's the reason.
And I love all that stuff about the eyes of the blind shall be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped, the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. The waters break forth in the wilderness. Yeah, so it's like everything will be coming good and alive. Grass shall become reeds and rushes. I love the idea of this highway. It's great. It's called the Holy Way. It's the visions of all this kind of like traffic rushing along it, which is great.
And it's interesting how there it also says, but it shall be for God's people. So again, this is what we talked about a lot in terms of the New Testament. So it's that Zion, so Jerusalem, it's we can treat it in a metaphorical way. So it's open for all those who are God's people. So it's whether the Jews or the Gentiles, so everyone who chooses.
I love the idea that no one will go astray and there'll be no lions there. When you ravenous beast. It's amazing.
Lots of animals mentioned in our readings today.
It is interesting. Lots of animals. And in fact, it's very interesting that the deer is mentioned in both readings, which is very interesting. Incredible. And this is Isaiah 35.
And I also thought that actually the canticle that follows this first reading is also based on Isaiah, and I thought that it's often, as is often the case with Isaiah, I think it points to Jesus.
Right,
so it says,
predicting it.
Then you shall be called by a new name, which the mouth of God will give. So I think.
Right, this is the canticle, which is Isaiah 61. So the other passage was, the reading was Isaiah 35. And then the canticle straight after it was Isaiah 61, which is interesting, amazing. And then the New Testament, Luke.
I thought so. Remember a few weeks ago, probably we read a similar.
Exactly. I was thinking. I see. Hang on, we just read this. And it's like so it's. Right, it's like that was in Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew 16, and here is. So it's Peter. What's it called? Peter's declaration about Jesus. So he says, "You are the Messiah." And
then he does that whole thing again, not to tell anyone, which I always think is very interesting. That Son of God must undergo great suffering, be rejected, be killed, and then be raised again. And he's like, "Don't tell anyone." I always think that's kind of intriguing. I never quite. Again, we need our resident priest. He's welcome to come and give some thought on why not tell anyone. Maybe it's just dealing with all of the whole situation of the story. But it's interesting. And then it says, if anyone wants to become my follower, then let them deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For those who want to save their lives will lose it, which is amazing. And those who lose their life for my sake will save it. Everything's all back to front.
And again, despite all this, despite Jesus foretelling his death and his resurrection, I think this passage is very life-affirming.
Right.
Because he says you should take up your cross daily, but it all sounds very promising. So you'll gain the whole world, and you'll get salvation and hope and.
Right. For those who are willing to bear the cross. Right. It's interesting. And also another thing, what does it profit for those who gain the whole world but lose or forfeit themselves. I always think that's such a great line.
Yeah,
that.
me too. I think it's so relevant and can be applied to so many situations.
Great, Anna, thank you very much. Great to see you here. Thank you very much for joining. Our one viewer. Thank you. But no, it is a great line, that, isn't it? So all this material stuff that we have, but at the end of the day, it's really nothing. It's interesting. Oh, it's Nana watching us. Oh, hello. Right, great. It is interesting. I went to see an extraordinary film last night. Actually, I have to say, which was by. I'm going to be hopeless. It was a lovely story of about a priest, and it's a French story written by. Of course, it's not downloading. Just when I wanted to download, it's called Leon, and I'm really utterly hopeless. Hang on. There we go. So it's by Jean-Pierre Melville, and the film was called Leon Morens for Shenik, Leon Morin Priest, based on a book. And it has Belmondo playing, who's a great heartthrob. So he plays a priest. Of course, he's a very handsome, good-looking actor. But it's an amazing story. It's sort of a love affair that never happens between a priest and a woman who's sort of fallen in love with him. Exactly. Well, if you love Belmondo, you have to see this film, Anna, because literally it is amazing. So she falls in love with him, but actually he's a priest. He doesn't do that, right? So he's actually making her fall in love with God through him. And it's really interesting. He becomes a sort of an instrument of God, and she's directing all her love at him, and he's sort of saying, "I'm not here. It's God." And she's also, it's also set during World War II, so there's a complicated backstory of being occupied by the Germans, and all their menfolk have been, sort of died in the war and stuff like that. So a lot of women in this town who are lonely and alone. She's also married to a Jewish man, who's died. So it's all sorts of complicated stuff going on there. And she's an atheist, and she's a communist. And she goes into as a joke to start with, and she meets Belmondo completely by fluke. And the first confession, she is just sort of taking the mickey, really. And Belmondo is completely cool and answers brilliantly everything she says. And he always has this. And it's great because it's not a sort of a story which is full of cliches about religion. It's really good. And he's fantastic as this priest, and he's very handsome as well. That's kind of an important part because he's the only guy in the village. All the men have gone, and basically all the women kind of fall in love with him. And he's clever how he doesn't even notice that. He kind of manages to steer past it in a very lovely way, actually. But this particular one woman they have this sort of ongoing. It's a very deep relationship because he guides her spiritually, brings her to God. It's a great film, Leon Morens for Shenik. I think it was made in 1961 or 1962 after Breathless. So he's already made that famous film, Breathless, which of course we all think of Belmondo's that film. But actually, this is afterwards, a year later. And it did win the Palme d'Or, so it got the big prize at the Venice Film Festival. And it's really good. I just completely by chance a flute into it, because it's part of this film, as you can see on my computer here, it's part of this film festival going on at Hudojstvený.
Thank you.
It's really good. If you can find it, go and find it, because I think it's a must. It's a fantastic story of the life of a priest in a small small French village during World War II.
And it's interesting actually how people come to God in such different ways.
Exactly.
That she comes
really
to confession as a joke. So
yeah.
I think lots of people can relate to this, so they would never expect that how they would come to it.
It's full of fantastic moments. There's one lovely moment when, towards the end, And it's the war's finished, everyone's going to kind of go their own ways. But she has a daughter, and at one point, he's putting the daughter to bed, and the daughter says, "Can you read me? I want a prayer. I don't want the same sort of prayer, because there are too many prayers are all the same and repeated. I want my own unique prayer." And he happens to write things, so he pulls out of his wallet just a little prayer he's written. So he kneels by her bed and reads the prayer to the daughter. And this woman is who's sort of madly kind of in love with him, but has understood that's not going to happen. She's sitting in the back and she says, "How ironic this is. Finally he's in my bedroom, but he's saying the prayer with my daughter." And I've never felt so much love. It's amazing to see that. I get quite emotional even thinking about it. So, anyway, good.
So we all need to see this.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's a really strong film. And it's beautifully written. And it's great. So anyway, good. So there we go. Anything more to add? Go and see that film if you can. We do need to finish. Oh my goodness, 11 minutes. Right, okay. Have a great day, everyone, and see you all next time. Bye. Bye.